that you're seated, please state your name in full and spell your last name for the court's record.
Kevin William West, W-E-S-T.
Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
Just to get a little bit of background on you, what do you currently do for a living?
I'm retired battalion chief.
And now we understand you grew up in Eugene, is that correct?
Yes,
And how long did you live in Eugene?
28 years.
And so when you, how and when did you first meet Marcy?
I worked for Eugene Fire Non-Emergency Transport System. It was a pilot project. I would transport cancer patients from Willamette Valley Cancer Center to the 6th floor at Sacred Heart Hospital where she was employed. And that's when I first met her.
Okay. And that's what kind of patients were those?
Cancer patients.
Oh, okay. And so then, I understand you were pursuing your paramedic degree at that time?
Yes, I was.
And did you get that?
I did.
Where did you get that?
At Lane Community College in Eugene.
What year was that?
In 2000.
And so, 2000, you're still living in Eugene at the time, I understand?
Yes, I am.
And then, how did your relationship with Marcy develop in those early days?
So in those early days, we, after we met at the hospital and some time had passed, we moved on to living together in an apartment. And we continued until I moved up to Camas when I was hired by the city of Camas.
And that's before the two departments joined forces?
That's correct, in roughly 2011.
And did you and Marcy get married at some point?
We did in 2002.
And where did you get married?
May 24th, 2002 at Edgefield McMenamins in Troutdale.
So, how is your marriage starting out?
Well, I would race down there just to see her during the academy. We were very much in love.
And so, you had a couple kids, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And the children, who were your kids and when were they born?
Ted and Megan West. Ted was our first, born in 2003. Megan was born in 2005.
So, everything starts out good.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, did things change at any point in your relationship?
They did. When she moved to Vancouver, things were really good. I was new to the fire department. It was a special time. We were just starting out up there. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Can you repeat your question?
So you're talking about how
things changed.
The relationship might have changed. Let me strike that question. I'll back up this one. Okay. When you first had children, did you arrange your schedules in any way to accommodate raising kids?
We absolutely did. I was fortunate enough to have a pretty fixed schedule, and she had a position that was deemed a relief position at Peace Health. So she could choose to pick up shifts if I wasn't working extra hours, and consequently, when I wasn't working, she was able to work, and I was able to pick up extra hours if she wasn't. So if there was abundant overtime, I would be primarily the one working, and we wouldn't have to have childcare. Although we did go to I think it was the Early Learning Center, Furstenberg Early Learning Center, just to give Marcy and I a little bit of a break when Ted was really young. But that was the only daycare we ever had to employ.
Was that kind of a value that you shared?
We did, yeah.
And so, how did you, as parents, how did you function together?
We were a very good team as parents, and right from the start, I was very engaged as a father, as she was a mother. Marcy was always very much engaged in the academics of both our kids. Marcy was she was in choir, she was a musician, played violin. She gave those gifts to our kids of the arts. Things that I wouldn't have given them without her.
Non-responsive.
Things that I wouldn't be able to give without her.
I'm sorry, I overruled the objection. Apologize.
So her gift to the kids was the artistic side of their education?
Yes, and her level of engagement with them, no matter what it was, whether it was singing lessons for Megan, guitar lessons for Ted, the support of her grandparents, initiating and paying for some of those initial lessons, supporting. Yeah, I was the writer, so I'd help out with writing assignments, and she was the math. We just whatever I couldn't pick up, she could, and we were a good team.
Would you say that Marcy was pretty dedicated to the kids?
She was more than dedicated. She was an amazing mother.
Made your job easier?
Yeah, I mean, I did. I worked a lot, but I loved being a dad. I did. Still do.
And so life goes on. Now, at some point, you bought a house, right?
We did.
And we've seen pictures of it. Is that the house that we've seen pictures of?
Yeah, that was our second home we had purchased.
Where was that second home? The one you just lived in recently, where was that located?
2573 34th Street in Washington, Washington.
And we had heard about this bedroom set. Can you tell me about the bedroom set in the master bedroom?
Yeah, so the bedroom set came along with many other items in the house when we moved in. It was an old elderly couple that moved in California, and they didn't want to take it with them, so they gave it to us very cheap. But it wasn't our bedroom set or our bar stools or any of that.
But you paid for them?
We did. We paid at closing a meager fee for all of it.
But was it would it be the furniture you would have chosen?
No.
What was the plan with regard to the furniture?
We wanted to replace it. It was a bigger home than we had initially, and so we didn't have the money to go buy all new furniture. It was a wonderful convenience at the time, but our plan was always to get things that fit us.
And Kevin, I'm going to show you Exhibit 313. Just ask me if you can look at that.
Yes,
Do you recognize that?
I do.
And what is it?
So this is
Don't show it. Just tell me what it is.
okay. It is the bed frame without the mattress and an end table on the right and left side of the bed.
And that photo, is that a fair and accurate representation of how the furniture was staged?
Yes, it is fair and accurate of how it was staged in the master bedroom.
Move to admit Exhibit 313.
Objection.
No, Your Honor.
13's it then. 313.
And Kevin, can you just kind of describe the features that we're looking at, where they were placed and so forth?
Yes, so the entrance to the master bedroom was the French door that sat right here. The walk-in closet sits there with the window to the west, just to the left side of the photo. You see the bed, the end table on the left, and end table on the right.
And these end tables, permission to publish that? These, you're calling them end tables. We've been referring to something as a nightstand, for what it's worth.
Yes.
Is that the same thing?
Same thing.
Okay. And so, were they in that spot in 2017 when you bought the house?
Yes.
Were they ever moved or rearranged during the time that you had it?
No, that bed weighed so much you had to take it apart to be able to move it. It was exactly how it was set up for the previous owners.
Was there a time when you moved it, at least, or moved some of the furniture temporarily?
Yeah, the dresser and both end tables we moved into other areas while we were having the carpets cleaned that December.
Why were you having the carpets cleaned?
Because we had our in-laws, our guests arriving in December. We did just the upstairs because the downstairs was all wood floors. We cleaned carpets. Yeah.
And when you were done with the shampooing, did you put the furniture back?
No, we were procrastinators. We didn't do that.
I'm sorry?
We didn't do that.
Didn't do
We were procrastinators. We did not put the main dresser out, but we put the end tables back out.
Okay, so the two nightstands went
The
back
two
in?
nightstands went out, but the dresser remained in the walk-in closet.
And over the years, did you get used to that furniture being in those positions?
Yeah.
Were you able to navigate your way around the furnishings even in the dark?
Yes.
Kevin, I'm showing you what has been admitted as exhibits 6 16, and 17, just ask you to take a look at those.
Yeah.
And you can actually show those to the jury and explain what we're looking at.
Okay.
When I say jury, make sure I can see it too.
Okay, I will. So this is a picture angled into our walk-in closet. This is the dresser I was just speaking of that we did not move back in. That was Marcy's dresser, fully loaded with all of her clothes. Behind the dresser that's not photographed, it's stacked with her clothes on the floor, about halfway up to the dresser. All of these clothes along this side, not all the space is photographed there, are all her clothes, and including this cubby. And there's a chest beneath the photo, the firefighter photo there, that contained various items. And then my cubby right here.
And what was kept in your cubby?
I had t-shirts in one, socks and underwear and other random clothing items.
How about in the next one? Can you tell us what exhibit number that is in the bottom corner?
The bottom corner is 17.
And what do you see there?
So you can see a side angle of Marcy's clothing. I have some of my uniform items in the back. My jeans are stacked on top. I have Rubbermaid bins with some of my hunting clothing and gear. A few of my clothes here and my t-shirts and some health food items that are just sitting on the cubbies. I have a towel that's hanging on my towel on the rug.
Is there, before Marcy passed, is that generally how the closet was kept?
Yeah, aside from having the dresser in there.
Okay, so if we went back a month or two before, it would have looked kind of like that?
It would have, yes.
Now, in a house, we all divide up duties. Mother does something, dad does something like that. What were your primary duties as far as household chores and so forth?
I did all of my own laundry. I would only get into the laundry when it kind of got out of control. I was so busy, I was working a lot, and so was she at that time. So I would do that. Generally, I did the majority of the cleaning. Marcy would joke that it was her way of cleaning, sweep things off the counter into a box and put it in a closet, and okay, the room is clean. And it was more of a family joke, but I would do majority of the cooking. I enjoy cooking. It just wasn't something she enjoyed.
Was that a source of controversy or trouble between the two of you?
It came up. I mean, there was times when I'd come home 7 o'clock. I'd get done with a night shift or a day half overtime. It'd go from 0700 or 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. or 1900. I would come home and the kids would go, "I'm hungry," and I would be frustrated that they hadn't been fed, and it was kind of expected that I would cook when I got home, and that would be a point of frustration.
So the kids are born. Now you've stayed pretty fit over the years, right?
I've tried, yes.
Is that because of your job? And so
Yes.
And Marcy, what were her fitness habits?
She would walk on the dike in Washougal along the Columbia periodically. Maybe go a couple weeks without, would do it for maybe 3 days on and off, a day here, a day there, without regularity, but that would be the majority of her exercise. We purchased a Peloton. She wanted one, she was motivated, she wanted to lose weight and get healthy. I purchased the Peloton, and like most items that exercise equipment, we used it. It was not comfortable. The backside hurt from sitting on the seat, and she chose not to do it, and it collected laundry. So, yeah. And for me too, it's the same story for me. I didn't enjoy it.
Over the years, all the way up to the last moment, I guess, was she pretty dedicated to her kids still?
Beyond words, she was very dedicated.
Now, marriages have their ups and downs. Did your marriage have its ups and downs?
Yes, it did.
And can you give us an idea of how that went?
There was, the ups and downs. We had so many good times. We have so many good memories and happy memories of raising the kids. And in the difficult times, our conversations, our arguments were round robin. Try to keep on one topic, and we couldn't solve one issue. It would come back and somewhat what you heard when the text messages were read. I wanted just to answer the question, and I couldn't get that question answered. I wanted to resolve things. I solve things as who I am, resolution oriented.
Fair to say there were some kind of unkind text messages going back and forth in December?
Yeah.
So did that represent one of the good times or one of the bad times?
No, that was a difficult time.
These good times and bad times, did they last for weeks, months? Kind of, what would be the ebb and flow of this?
So, we'd have 3 or 4 days that were really good, and then we'd have maybe an item that would separate us for a day, and we'd have, maybe we needed a day cool-off period. Sometimes those periods would take 3 or 4 days, and then we'd have a period, some good times. It wasn't, we didn't only communicate through text. We had cordial conversation. We also had kind text messages that weren't read also.
Now, we've heard that at some point you met Cynthia Ward.
Yes.
Do you recall when that was?
The first time I met Cynthia was in, we believe, 2004.
And you met, how did you meet her?
At Doc Harris Stadium. She was on the track. I was introduced to her. I was on EMS standby for the football game, and I was just introduced to her that night.
Okay. Which stadium?
Doc Harris Stadium in Camas High School.
Okay. And that's when you met Cynthia?
That's correct.
And then that was in about 2004, you said?
Yeah.
Did that turn into any kind of relationship at that time?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. How so?
We had instant attraction, and it is exactly what it is, and it grew from there.
Was she married at the time?
She was.
So were you?
Yes, it was.
Was she also affiliated with the fire department somehow?
Yes.
How so?
She was a Washougal Fire Department volunteer, and City of Camas and City of Washougal were not merged at that time.
Okay. But was she at the stadium for the same reason you were?
I can't remember if she was on standby or if she just walked up to somebody that was a firefighter that she knew. I don't know.
So as a volunteer, was she kind of under your supervision to supervise her?
Not in the slightest. 2 different departments.
And so the relationship became more, how long did it last?
We've discussed it. It's a short period. I just can't remember. I think maybe 4 months, 5 months maybe on the outside.
And did it become physical?
It did, yes.
And 4 or 5 months, what happened after that?
We went our separate ways. She went through a divorce, and Marcy and I had our daughter Megan.
Did you stay in touch with Cynthia over the years?
No, I did not.
So after she left, it was just cold trail and that's it?
I only knew her married name. I didn't know her maiden name. I knew she dated, oddly, someone else with the last name of West. I did not know her maiden name, so I did search for a lot of years, but I never found her.
And
Not never, because I finally did.
sure. And so she leaves and you and Marcy continue apparently.
Yes.
And was there a time when the marriage became turbulent and you separated?
Yes, in 2015.
Okay, what was the cause of that?
The cause was both intimacy and balancing what Marcy was spending. Not that we were having financial troubles as if we didn't have enough money to live, but that we could have more if we were more responsible. And so that was what I was moving forward with. That's what my concerns were that weren't being met.
Okay, so things just kind of bubbled up and you separated?
That's right.
Where'd you go?
I took my trailer to a firefighter's house that I worked with, and I stayed there for a period that I can best estimate to be 3 weeks, probably. 3 weeks would be close.
So during the separation, did you continue to communicate with Marcy?
Oh, absolutely. The night I left, I sat Marcy, Ted, and Megan down on the couch, and I told them the reasons I was leaving, why I was choosing to leave, that I would be active in their lives, they would be able to get a hold of me, I would not be absent, and I made a point to follow through with that while I went through those days.
And I'm sorry, the separation lasted about how long?
Roughly 3 weeks.
Okay. And then how did you reconcile that?
So I came home, and we had a real, what you'd call a heart-to-heart. We chose to put things aside and go to the coast and discuss those things at the coast. What we discussed was that I wanted her to spend, so the costs involved with my daughter's dance were quite extensive, and so there's choreography fees, there's costumes, there's the driving both there and back, and studio fees, travel. It's very expensive, and so when you add 1, 2, and then maybe 3 solos for recitals, and then you have 3 teams, and then so each team that you take to a recital throughout the year, each recital costs money. So if we reduce the number of dances she was in by 1 here or 1 there, just find a little bit of balance was all I was asking for, to be able to save a little bit more money. We're moving into college time. We were just trying to prepare.
Okay. So you kind of came to an agreement how to move forward?
We did.
And
We
how
did.
How are things after that?
There was a big turnaround. She was very present in my life. She was, we never did reduce the number of dances that Megan was in. Those choices would happen after the spring recital. And then it'd be like July, and you would try out. You have tryouts, and of course she was talented. She could make just about any team.
You learned how to get along better for a while?
No, we absolutely did. It went on for it went for a while, but then it just went back to the way it was.
Did you ever have any like firefighters functions, like, I don't know, banquets or parties or anything like that?
We did.
And did you go to those?
I did.
Did Marcy go with you?
She only went to 1.
Out of how many were there?
My whole career.
But that was her choice. She didn't have to go, did she?
I wanted someone to go with.
So, when you separated in 2015, was there talk about divorce?
Yes.
And so that was kind of on the table at that time?
And I did see an attorney at that time for a consult only.
How about in the years following that? Did you two have arguments often, or once in a while?
Yeah, it was just always good and then frustrating, and good and frustrating.
Did you fight in front of the kids?
I made a point, and she did too, that we wanted to keep it always separate. We never wanted to involve them in our arguments. And I have a firm belief that is our business, and it's not for them to have to witness. We're just better parents than that.
So let's just kind of look at the last couple of years before Marcy passed. Was the marriage still kind of going up and down, or was it getting worse? How would you describe it to each other?
I think it was always kind of the same. It ebbed and flowed. It was just always the same, and we just never really. I always desired to have more. I always desired to have a strong love, not be lost in the shuffle a little bit. So I always just desired more. It just never came. I was just very much there to pray that our marriage would turn around, and also be there for the kids until they were at high school the best I could.
And did you two have any kind of plans for the future of your marriage after the kids graduated from high school?
Marcy and I did not have any plans such as moving from Washougal or having a retirement home somewhere. We didn't have those kinds of plans. She was very much into Megan's college and where she was going, as she should be.
What about with regard to the actual status of your marriage, whether or not you would stay married? Was there any kind of plans that you two had?
The two of us didn't have a plan. She threatened to leave many, many times. I would ask her not to threaten that. I wanted to work on things. Over all the years, especially after 2015, I came to the decision that I was going to wait until Megan got out of high school and graduated, and then I was going to move forward with a divorce. At the end of her graduation, she immediately became engaged, and her wedding was set for the following July. And I knew immediately I was not going to start the divorce process until after she was done with her wedding.
The idea that you're waiting for her to divorce Marcy and you're going to do it after Megan's wedding, did you share that information with anybody in the family?
I really only shared that with Cynthia. I think I may have mentioned it to family members, but that was always, well, I did. I told my daughter Megan. I prepped Megan for that.
So you chose to tell Megan but not Ted?
I did. I felt Megan, this is two years ago, but 2 years and a month or so, that I talked to Megan over the phone, and I let her know that I was going to wait until after her wedding, that I wanted to allow her mom to plan, wanted her to have that time with her mom, and I wasn't going to disrupt that and be the center of attention.
So as a backdrop to this, you understand that you ran into Cynthia again, or you looked her up again, is that right?
I did.
When did that happen?
That was July of 23.
You said you'd kind of looked for her off and on over the years?
I did.
And what did that include?
Well, I mean, I was searching on the social media site, Facebook. I was looking for her, and I never did find her. But I just entered Cynthia W. And I didn't know if she was in there, and of course her last name's Ward. I found her that way.
And so you found her. What did you do?
I was shocked. I couldn't believe I had found her, and I sent her a message to see if it's her. I had a strong feeling it was. And
Turned out to be her.
yeah, it's been a lot of years.
And then did you two start communicating after that?
We did.
How long did that go on before you met, if you did?
No, we did. We texted through Messenger for a short period. We transitioned to WhatsApp, and we didn't really make a phone call we made a phone call probably within that first week. We spoke until August. She was telling me she wouldn't be able to see me till October, but we actually first saw each other late August into early September somewhere.
Why did you use WhatsApp?
It was just a application that we could text on that I could hide from Marcy. And she could hide from her ex.
Now, did Marcy ever complain to you about any health conditions or any pains that she had?
She did.
What was it?
So she complained of headache type pain frequently. This was a normal complaint. She complained of chest pain also. It was not very cardiac specific. We're always taught, women present differently with chest pain. I never wanted to take it for granted that I knew everything. I don't have any equipment with me when I'm at home. She would complain. I'd ask her some questions. What does it feel like? Does it go anywhere? Is it heavy? Is it sharp? Some generalized questioning that we would do. Nothing ever presented as something that's cardiac or emergent. Feeling her pulse, it feels strong and regular. Those are kind of the simple things you can do at home. but always advising her to see a doctor. Like, she would just never want to go see a doctor.
So, you said she had headaches.
Yes.
You say frequently, how frequently?
Daily to every other day. At some point, some lasted longer, some were shorter, some were more severe than others.
It wasn't always like that, was it?
No. it
When did
wasn't.
that start?
You know, it's hard for me to give a date on or a time frame of what it was, but I would venture to say that it was within the last year that it really seemed to ramp up.
What about the chest pains? When did she start complaining about that?
I know it was easily within that September to January when she passed, somewhere in there, that she was complaining about it.
How often did she complain?
It was not as frequent as her headaches. Yeah.
Was it more than once or twice?
Oh yes, it was at least a dozen times.
Well, now, she's got chest pain, she's got chronic headaches. How bad were her headaches at times?
Where we needed the lights off, we needed sounds to be lowered, but that was fairly infrequent that we had to go to that extent. But it wasn't. She was never diagnosed with migraines. It was, and it wasn't like she had visual disturbances with it or some visual migraines. I can't remember if that's what it's called when you see some spots and then it's kind of a precursor to having migraine. She never had those kinds of things.
Now, as a paramedic, are you trained to kind of look for red flags and ask follow-up questions and so forth?
Yeah, I'm trained to be paranoid. Yeah,
Paranoid paramedic.
that's right.
And so would you ask her these follow-up questions?
Always.
Yeah, you were married to her for 22 years.
Mhm.
You know that your record, she went to urgent care from time to time and so forth. Do you know who her primary care physician was?
Yes.
Who was it?
It was Dr. Hagan in Camas.
Is that yours too?
It was.
And are you aware of Marcy ever going for a regular, routine, physical, or annual checkup?
No.
Not just to Dr. Hagan, but how about during your marriage?
Other than prenatal care, never.
So then, we've heard about this LifeScan process. And how long has LifeScan been, I guess, well, try again. How did you learn about LifeScan?
I worked on shift with Dane Hammond, fire captain. His mother passed of cancer. He took that on as his mission in the fire department, as cancer prevention in the fire department. Kills more firefighters than anything else. So this was a very big thing to bring for health purposes for the longevity of our firefighters. It extended to family and volunteers and retirees in the second year. I did it myself the first 2 years that it was available. The second year it was going to be available to the expanded group, and that would have been December of 22 or January of 23 when I signed both Marcy and I up for the LifeScan the following December of 2023.
Is there a pretty good waiting list for it?
They had a limited number of spots, and so if they capped out, you just couldn't get any more in there. And so I tried to get in there as soon as I could.
And her scheduled appointment was not until the following year in December, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, we've heard that it's December 6th. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Was there any purpose other than health concerns for having her take that LifeScan?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
What was the purpose of having her take the LifeScan?
I framed it that I wanted her to get it because she wouldn't go to a doctor. I felt like this was my opportunity to get a comprehensive, generalized look at her. That's how I view it for myself. I know I don't have a fatty liver. I don't have any hardening of my arteries. Everything checked out really well. But never she had like blood drawn or except for when I think we had kids possibly, but yeah, it was
So it's just the purpose of checking out her health.
absolutely.
Okay. And so she told you about the results?
Not the only thing she told me is when she stepped off the treadmill that the person conducting that station mentioned that she had some PVCs when she stepped off. That's the only thing I heard about it. I had never even looked at the report.
So you never really had any idea that she had any kind of chronic or other kind of health risk?
No.
When you've heard other firefighters testify here, were you pretty open about your relationship and things in your life with your coworkers?
Yeah, our coworkers at the fire were family, and I was open, but I wasn't always the one just going and spouting out information. They want to know how I'm doing. They're asking questions, and just as I do, it's like we're raising their families together, raising families together.
Did you tell a number of your coworkers that you were considering divorcing Marcy fairly soon?
Yes, I did.
Did you tell them that you were planning to move out?
I did.
Did you tell them that you're worried about finances?
I did.
Did you tell them that you were worried about your retirement?
I was, yes.
Because what would happen if she divorced you or you divorced her? What was going to happen with your retirement?
Whatever I'd paid into my pension, how many years I'd served, half of that would be hers. I understand, and whatever I was responsible for paying her, I would pay her.
And did Marcy also have some kind of a pension?
No, I don't believe she had a pension through Peace Health. I didn't. I received a letter from Peace Health that after 20.
Objection, non-responsive.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. So, but during your marriage to her, you were never aware of her having any kind of life insurance program, or life insurance, some kind of retirement program.
No.
Were you say you had good times and bad times, but you only separated one time in front of your
Yes, that's right.
Were you always sleeping together in the house?
No.
How about when the kids were home?
Not always. No.
And would you hide that from the kids?
We would.
How would you do that?
We'd wait till they went to bed, and then it was either I would be in bed and she'd go to the couch downstairs or the guest room. Whoever felt stronger about an argument and wanted to leave, I guess, would go to another spot. There'd be times we would be in bed together for days straight, but then one thing might make it so we're sleeping in different areas. It just was turbulent that way.
How about in the last, let's say, 6 months of the marriage, were you sleeping together at all?
Yes.
Like same kind of pattern?
Yeah.
Okay. So you described good times and bad times. Were you sleeping together during both the good times and the bad times?
Sometimes.
And were you having any intimacy with Marcy in, let's say, the last 6 months?
Yes. Yes.
How often?
Once a month or once every other month.
Of course, at this time, you're seeing Cynthia, correct?
Yes.
And you're being intimate with her in the last few months, is that right?
Correct.
When you would, there was talk from Ms. Hahn, who testified earlier, who worked with Marcy. Would you still transport patients to the hospital and see Marcy at times?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Anytime she was working and I was working, when the kids were older in school, she'd pick up shifts, and so we would actually work at the same time. So I would see her.
Even as a battalion chief, you see her?
No, that's when I stopped going to the hospital when I promoted to battalion chief in 2020, I believe. And even as a captain, I wasn't working on the ambulance and going to the hospital that often, but On occasion, I would be on an ambulance and transported still to Peace Health.
Do you know who Connie Hahn is?
Yeah.
And so after, in that last year, was there ever a time when you actually went to drop off a patient at the hospital and your wife was there?
Yes.
I mean, how many times? In the last year of her life?
Oh, it was very limited in the last, maybe once, because as a battalion chief, I'd go to Peace Health and pick up, when an ambulance would go to the hospital with a cardiac arrest, when they needed extra hands, they would take the fire engine crew with them. So I would run in the battalion chief to the hospital and pick them up and get them back in service as fast as I could. And I would be able to see her there, and I would say hi. And there wasn't just one section of
Objection,
the.
non-responsive.
Sorry.
Okay. And so, go ahead, tell me, you said that you would see her there, and then what would you do?
I would look for her. She wasn't always right in what they called the main, where the paramedics come in. It's been called different names in the past, and I don't know what it's currently called right now. But as you walk into the main, you have the main, and the unit secretaries are there, and the charge nurse, and then to the right is a hall that goes to what was EDE or East, I don't know, but she would work over there sometimes, and then sometimes she'd be in another wing in Peds, behind another desk. So it wasn't always just where the paramedics came in.
Now, you weren't able to go there very often because your job had changed.
My job had changed, yes.
Did you do anything to kind of let her know you were thinking about her during those times?
I did.
What did you do?
So as a captain, I had probationary firefighters. We did mild, fun hazing. So I would ask them to provide my wife, Marcy, a cold beverage. So they had a soda machine, and they would take her a cold beverage, make sure she had a drink. And I said, I'll ask her if he did it or if he didn't, so we'll find out. But I would do that.
Now, going back to just go to let's say Christmas of 2023. Do you have a good recollection of that?
I do.
Where'd you go? If you went anywhere then.
I did. I went to Eugene to my mom and Bill's house.
Yeah, anybody go with you?
I can't remember if I had to go by myself because I was getting off shift and Ted and Megan were already in Eugene, or if they rode with me. I don't remember.
Okay. But when you got down there for Christmas, who was there?
My sister, my nieces, Marcy, myself, Ted, Megan, my mom, my stepdad Bill.
Did Marcy stay at your mom's house that night?
No.
She stayed with her mom?
Yeah, that was pretty common.
And so, this last week, going from Christmas forward, how was your relationship with Marcy in that period of time? Just generally.
It was okay. It was okay.
Not a lot of fighting?
No.
Maybe a few messages here and there that weren't too kind?
Yeah. And I just remember it not being one of the really difficult times.
And so we understand from Megan that she came home for Christmas, as she testified, correct?
Yes.
And was Ted still staying at the house at that time? This is before, we're talking about right around, before the time that Megan went back up to campus. Was Ted still staying in your house?
Yes, he was.
And then going forward from that, do you recall when Megan went back up to school?
Megan spent a couple weeks. Her professors were extremely accommodating with her work and was able to stay and complete her work from our home in Washougal.
Okay. Do you remember what day she went back?
It was, so the gathering was probably the 20th. That Monday, I think, that following Monday was the day I took her back up.
Okay. I'm going to back up just a little bit to, she had come home for the Christmas holidays, correct?
Yeah.
After Christmas, do you recall her going back to school, at least for a while?
Yes.
And what day was that?
I don't remember what day she went back. I know Marcy drove her back, and I'm not sure if Ted went with her. Yeah.
We saw some Christmas cards that there's a claim that you wrote them to Cynthia. Did you write those cards?
I did.
Are those your words?
They are my words.
And they were in the garage in a wooden chest.
They were.
Why were they in there?
Because I never gave them to Cynthia. I read them to her, but she did not want them at her house to be found. So that's why they were there.
And she was still in a relationship too.
She was.
And so you kept them out in the garage. Did Marcy ever come out in the garage?
She did. Not to stay, not often. It was not warm out there.
Did you think she would find the cards?
No.
You put them in there so she wouldn't find them.
Correct.
I'm going to ask you about January 7th. On January 7th, you have a pretty good recollection that day for the most part?
Pretty good.
And how did it start?
It was a good morning. Ted was making pancakes. I was not a pancake eater at the time. I'm just vegetables and proteins. That's what I was doing. They played cards. I remember it wasn't raining that day.
And what card game did they play?
They played Spite and Malice.
Is that like a family game?
It is. My mom and my grandma used to play when I was a kid and play for dimes.
And were you around when Ted and Marcy were playing cards?
Yes,
Okay. Did you at some point leave the house?
I did.
Do you remember where you went?
I don't.
Do you remember what time you left?
I don't. I just have a vague recollection of leaving at some point for
Okay.
a short period.
Were you running errands or any idea?
I did often. I run to Safeway, it was just down the hill. I'd go to Safeway sometimes twice a day, or Bi-Mart was right down the hill too, my favorite store.
Okay. So you left the house. Ted was still there playing cards with Marcy, right?
Yes.
And tell me about later. Do you communicate with Marcy again later in the afternoon while you're still out before you come back?
I communicate with Marcy. I don't know if it was while I was still out or not.
Okay. What about, we've seen some text messages about you going to get food.
Yes.
Do you call that? Where'd you go?
I went to Ichi. It was right down the hill in the same strip mall next to Safeway. It's like 3 minutes from the house.
And then what happened?
They were closed, and so I texted Marcy. I couldn't remember if I texted her or called her, but that we had the Ichi was closed, and I was going to go to the Chinese restaurant.
And so you went there. What did you get for yourself? Do you remember what you bought for yourself?
Yeah, just broccoli beef. Just
That was all you
meat and
got?
veggies.
Everything? Okay.
Yep.
And what did you get for Marcy?
The yakisoba noodles and lemon chicken.
So what was the plan for the rest of the evening? You know, Ted is leaving, right?
He had left already.
And so your two are going to be alone.
Yep.
What was the plan for the evening?
We were just gonna relax, eat dinner, and watch a movie.
Was that a plan you both had?
Yeah.
So you got the Chinese food, then what did you do?
I came straight home, and I prepared it on plates like I normally would. The noodles come in this giant tray. There's more than 3 people can eat, and so I'd always make her a plate, and she was sitting on the couch with me. I took it to her.
Okay. Do you have any idea what time you got home?
It was in the evening.
Was it already dark?
I don't believe so.
So you get home, start eating, and what else did you do besides eat? What did you do?
Just watch the movie.
And how were you guys sitting in the living room?
So we had a couch directly in front of the TV that was on the wall. She was on the right armchair and I was on the left, and it wasn't. We didn't normally sit next to each other. The way that couch was configured is that the recliners were on the end, and so we just wanted to sit where the recliners were. But it wasn't normal for us to say sit under a blanket together on the couch. That just
Were you two sitting any closer that night than you were other nights?
no.
Okay. Were you getting along that night?
We were.
What kind of an evening did you have there?
It was just peaceful, where we weren't talking about topics. We weren't talking about the things that we had argued in the past, and it was nice to have a pleasant night.
And so, at some point, did you two become intimate that night?
We did.
And we expect to remember with precision what time. Do you have any idea what time that might have been?
It was between movies, and I don't know. It was in the
Did you say it was between movies or after movies?
well. We watched 2 or 3. I can't remember what we watched, but it could have likely been between movies.
And where were the two of you into it?
Upstairs in the master bedroom.
I'm going to show you Exhibit 305, which has been entered. And can you just kind of show that to the jury and explain what you're looking at?
Yeah, so this is the side of the bed that I slept on. I even at work, I scrunch my pants down like that with the socks underneath. I've always done that. That's what my grandpa did. I didn't know I was gonna be a firefighter, but my grandpa, we joked about him always dressing like that. I always did it. That's the garbage sack right here that I placed in case Marcy was gonna vomit again. I had it ready to go. My side nightstand, I have a very small locked gun safe right there, and a charging cord for my cell phone.
And was, the pants are on the floor. Were you wearing those pants that day?
Yes.
When did you take those pants off and put them there?
When I finally went to bed.
And so, and what did you wear to bed that night?
I had my Under Armour running pants and white t-shirt.
Now, we've seen some photos, we've heard some testimony that Marcy Ward was wearing a bra to bed.
Yeah.
Was that uncommon for her?
No, she always wore a bra to bed.
Do you know why?
She had breast implants after Megan was born, and by Dr. Workman in Vancouver off 164th. And she was advised to wear one to help with support. I don't know beyond that any reasons why. I didn't ask any questions, but that was the reason she always had one on. It's either sometimes not just underwire, but a sports bra too.
Did she, was she told to wear it for the next 20 years, as far as you know?
I think by how she wore it, I'd say yes.
Okay, but she always wore it.
Always wore a bra.
So then, you two were intimate. How long were you in the room being intimate?
15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe. It wasn't long.
What happened after that?
I went back downstairs, watched some TV.
And so, and what did Marcy do?
She, I don't exactly remember. I remember she stayed up there though.
And then what if anything happened after that?
She came downstairs, complaining of headache.
Do you have any idea how long after she went to bed it was that happened?
It's really hard for me to say. It was a short period of time, but not long.
Came down with a headache, and what did she do?
Came down, immediately went for some ibuprofen.
And then what?
Went back upstairs. Of course, when she got the ibuprofen, I was asking her about the severity of her headache. It was just what I always did.
Is that the price of living with a paramedic? They're always asking you to
That is the price.
for your symptoms.
Yep.
And so she goes back up to bed with the ibuprofen. What happened next?
I can hear her vomiting aggressively upstairs.
Now you're downstairs at that time, right?
I am.
And so, is she in the master bathroom or the guest bathroom?
Yes.
Guest bathroom?
Yeah.
So that would be coming out of the door, take a left, and it's kind of on the right there?
If I'm coming out of the living room,
Well, if you're coming out of the bathroom.
the master bedroom.
Yes.
Yes, it's straight across the hall straight across the hall from her side of the bed.
Okay. So she goes there, so she's up there throwing up aggressively in the bathroom, and you're downstairs.
Yep.
What is the path to get from the bathroom downstairs to where?
So if I'm looking at the TV where I was saying, it's a straight shot to the right, to the base of the stairs, and then it just kind of hooks back up to the top right, where the top of the stairs is where that bathroom is.
Is that a pretty good distance?
Yeah, it's a fair distance. Yeah,
Could you hear it pretty clearly?
I could.
And what'd you do?
I ran up there, held her hair, and waited for her to finish.
And then what?
I started asking her about her headache again. I asked if she was dizzy. I asked if she had visual changes. All the standard questions I'm worried about a headache and vomiting. I'm worried about an aneurysm. Asking, did you feel a pop in your head? I already mentioned visual changes. She was stable walking. She didn't seem uneasy. Someone's having an aneurysm, it's the worst pain, the worst pop, worst headache they've ever had, and they have an unstable gait. I've seen it firsthand. So I was just asking questions, and nothing she said was of concern to the point that I needed additional or higher level of intervention.
Now, after she was finished, did you help her get back into bed?
I watched her get back in bed. I wanted to see her walk on her own.
Did you do anything to prepare her just in case she got sick again?
I did. That was the garbage sack I sat next to where I was sleeping.
Okay, so you're talking about next to your bed, you put a garbage bag on the floor just in case you got sick again?
Yes, I did.
Now, this was a day off for you, right?
Yes.
How many days had you been off?
We were transitioning to a new schedule at the fire department at that point, and I think I had, maybe it was my first 4-day stretch or a 2-day stretch I had. I just can't, I think it was my first 4-day stretch, but I'm just not quite sure.
And, but you were scheduled to go back the next day
That morning, the 8th.
at 8 o'clock?
Yeah, 0700, yeah.
At 7 o'clock, okay.
Yeah.
So what time do you normally go?
Normally 9 or 10, not a night owl usually.
Okay, but that night you went to bed a little later?
Yeah, I did.
Did you, that evening, were you on your phone at all? Were you surfing the web or looking anything up, as far as you recall?
I don't remember.
It's possible you were?
I suppose it's possible I was, yeah.
Okay. So when you finally went up to bed, did you take your phone with you?
Yes,
Where'd you put it?
on the nightstand and plugged it in like I always do.
Okay. Is that just your habit?
Yes, every night.
And where was Marcy's phone, if you recall?
Um,
Or do you know for sure?
I don't know where her phone was.
Okay. Where did she normally keep it?
On her nightstand.
Was the bedroom dark when you came in?
Yes.
Did you, this is the night before a shift, did you drink any alcohol that night?
No.
Did Marcy?
No, she didn't drink alcohol.
Not at all?
No, she did. Like if we were camping, it would be like a pre-made margarita front you'd buy from, say, Costco. She'd have one maybe, but it just wasn't her thing.
And how would you know how to wake up in the morning?
I set my alarm.
Did you set it that night?
Yes.
For what time?
Usually I get up at 5 to go to work.
And so, you go to bed.
Yeah.
Did Marcy know the pin to your phone?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because she'd use my phone for wedding research or projects. Like she'd have her phone, a laptop, and her phone, and just be comparing things all the time during the wedding planning stuff.
Were there times where you think she went through your phone?
Yeah.
You think, why do you think she?
Because I'd find it open.
Do you have any suspicion as to why she would go through your phone?
I think she was suspicious of my affair.
Is that because you were absent quite a bit?
That could be part of it. I think I was pretty present, but I was on my phone a lot. I think that's why.
When you went to bed, did you get back on your phone again that night?
Not after I plugged it in.
Did you?
I'm not a social media person. I'm not surfing the web. That's not my thing.
Did you hear Marcy get up during the night?
No.
Did she ever get up during the night you weren't aware of it, as far as you know?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Did you hear her fall or anything like that happen during the night?
No, I did not.
Did you hear her scream?
No, I did not.
And earlier in the day, I'm just going to go back for just a second, when you two were kind of hanging out during the day, was there any discussion about your birthday?
Yes.
What was that?
She wanted to take me to the coast. She was looking for places. We were discussing different cities.
So things are going pretty good.
Yeah, we had a good time.
So then, your sleep, what catches your attention, if anything? What wakes you up when you do wake up?
I woke up to my dog whimpering. She kind of whimpers and barks, but she wasn't then. She was just whimpering.
Now, your dog, what's your dog's name?
Sadie.
Yeah, where did Sadie normally sleep?
She loves the pillow. She was either between us or literally between us, up on the pillow.
And so you woke up to the dog whimper.
Yeah.
Were there times when the dog would whimper and well, start there. Did you always get up when the dog would whimper?
No.
But would the dog get outside somehow?
No.
Okay. Did you leave the door open so the dog could get out?
Out of the master bedroom.
That's what, yeah.
Yes.
And okay, so you when the dog would whimper, were there times when the dog would go outside or go outside your room and get a hold of Megan?
Yes.
And why would that be? Why would you not get up?
Because I didn't hear it.
Would you and Marcy both sleep through it sometimes?
Yes.
And so, the dog's whimpering. What did you do when you heard the dog whimper?
I tried to quiet Sadie down. That's my first thing. It was like, I'm sleeping, be quiet. And then I realized that I could feel movement in the bed.
Okay. Describe that. What did you feel?
I felt it's not quite a vibration. I think it's easiest to feel. It's not quite shaking. It's not like I was experiencing an earthquake in bed, but I could feel movement in the bed.
And what did you do next?
I put my hands on her, and I could tell she was shaking, and something was wrong. Immediately, I'm considering seizure in my mind, obviously right away.
Had you seen her like that before?
Never.
Are you aware of her ever having a seizure before that?
Never.
And so, but did you recognize it as a seizure?
Yes.
And so, do you have any idea how long she'd been seizing like this before you became aware?
No.
So what did you do?
That's my biggest concern, not knowing how long she's been in that situation. I wanted to get her out of bed on the floor where I could protect her airway the best.
What's that? Sorry.
Objection, non-responsive, Your Honor.
So, you find she's seizing.
Yep.
What did you do?
I wanted to get her out of bed as safely as I could to the floor where I could have a space to work on her and evaluate her, protect her airway.
What, so she's seizing, I mean, how does she describe this? Maybe some people have experience with seizures. How is she behaving? How is her body position?
So she was, I didn't have much light, but what I could feel was her arms were on top of her body, positioned like so, legs straight out, and arching forward a little bit, shaking.
Did you try to talk to her?
Yeah, of course. I tried to get her to respond to me verbally, yelling.
Did she respond?
No.
What did you do next?
I lifted her from the bed.
Okay.
Yep.
And describe that. So she's on the bed. You're gonna have Mr. West perform a demonstration here, please?
Yes.
Okay. This is not quite what we're looking at, but is she on her side of it or she on
No,
her
she's lying supine on her back.
Okay. And so, let's just pretend this is the bed here, okay?
Okay.
She's lying there, you're over here, can you come over here?
Yes.
And
So
just,
if I was on this side, her head would be positioned this way. If I was on her side of the bed.
okay, well, you were on the other side when you first realized she
Oh,
was.
correct.
So what did you do?
So when I was in bed,
Yeah.
okay, so I was in bed and I was reaching over to feel her after I realized the dog was whimpering for a reason.
Okay, and so you go around to her side of the bed,
Yep.
and then go ahead and Go ahead and show us what you did with regard to Marcy. I think she's facing the other way at this point.
Well, if I'm on her side of the bed,
Okay.
then I am appropriately positioned beside her.
Okay.
And the pillows here, nightstand, and
Why don't you go on this side and show the jury what you did? Okay, you just position the gun sideways and show what you did.
okay, so.
And if you need to turn around, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, one arm underneath her shoulders and one arm underneath. And as I brought her out, I brought her to my knee, and then I brought her to the floor. I couldn't support her weight. She was, I couldn't support her, and even lift her and then set her down, but I brought her to my knee.
Now, were you concerned about any of the furnishings in the room?
Yeah, so where the pillow sits, the edge of the end table is here. And so when I brought her out to my knee, I just was mentioned that I cleared the nightstand. I meant that when I brought her past, I made sure her head didn't hit it. I'm clearing her from it, is what I meant by that. I set her down and then got to the floor.
And were you able to clear the nightstand?
Yes.
Are you quite certain that you didn't hit her head on the nightstand?
Yes.
And so you got her down to the floor.
Yes.
While you're lifting her to the floor, did you have any contact with her throat as far as you know?
Not when I was lowering her to the floor because my arms were under her shoulders.
Okay. And you're trained in this move, aren't you?
You know, it's a hasty move. And if we had people, we had different ways to lift people to protect backs. We don't want to do lifts on our own, but I'm not going to not lift her because being in bed is not a good place to treat her.
Okay, why is that?
Well, I mean, having a seizure, it's soft, but I felt more, my instincts were just to take her to the floor.
That was your
And
training.
and I could get behind her and I could get her in a recovery position.
Okay. What is a recovery position?
Placing a patient on their left or right side, supporting their head, and maintaining an open airway the best you can, protecting them from whatever they're going through. So in a seizure, this is a good way to protect them.
Is she still seizing at this point?
Yes.
And is she assisting you or cooperating in any way?
No.
She's just 188 pounds of stiff body, is that
Correct.
Okay. And so, would you do me a favor, would you lower her to the ground?
Okay.
Okay, and then show the jury how you, if this is the side of the bed.
Yep.
And the closet's over here, and the wall's over here.
Yep.
Show the jury how you moved her to the ground, and then where you placed your hands, and how you moved her to the recovery position.
Okay. So when I decided to make the lift, arm was under the shoulder, other arm was underneath her. I brought her out and just slightly at an angle to avoid the nightstand to my knee, and then lowering her to the ground. I wanted to be on this side of her, between the bed and her, right hand dominant. So while I was there, I pulled her away from the bed. I was able to get to this side of her. I rolled her where I could place my.
I'm sorry, can you move back here a little bit?
Yes, I will.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I have my body up against her back to support her on her side, and I have my hand underneath in about this position supporting her head and neck. But my hand, my dominant hand is here. I can use it to protect her airway. I can use it to support her against my body. She's not going anywhere, and I'm in control.
Okay. And now you mentioned that you put your hand on her neck.
I did.
Is that a standard part of moving someone into recovery position?
I think it's the place that you hold them because their head is so heavy when they're unresponsive that you have to at least hold it with enough energy to support the weight of their head.
Okay. Does your hand wrap around over toward her throat at all?
Not the anterior portion, but it would be the lateral moving towards that. The doctors talked about the sternocleidomastoid muscle. It goes from the mastoid process down to the sternum, that insertion point. So I'm kind of on that muscle and under the jaw and the upper part of the neck where it meets the head. But that's the only time I was holding her in that position.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, when you're doing those maneuvers and you're positioning her on the floor, and you're rolling her into the recovery position, are you being super gentle, or how would you describe your movements?
Kind of like a hasty move. I'm wanting to do things quickly and efficiently, but safely, and that's what we always did in that line of work.
Would you describe your behavior as violent or aggressive or deliberate? How would you describe the movements?
No, deliberate and concerned. Yeah,
And were you trying not to hurt her?
absolutely.
Were you working in the dark?
Yes.
Why weren't the lights on?
For whatever reason, our fan light wasn't working.
Okay. So is the fan light, you have a switch on the wall, something like that?
Switch on a wall that would allow us to use the remote control to turn on not 3 stages of the fan and the light button in the center.
So when you came around the bed and helped her to the floor and put her in recovery position, were there any lights on at that time?
No.
So you're working in the dark.
Yes.
Were you able to determine whether or not she was breathing?
I assume during the seizure she's not exchanging a lot of air at all.
Is that kind of the understanding for paramedics?
Yes.
And so at this point, you're a paramedic, you're trained.
It's been a long time since I was on an ambulance.
Well, sure. You're a paramedic, you've got knowledge of how to help people.
Yeah.
What efforts did you make to help her at that point? By the time you got her in recovery position,
Yep.
and that was to keep her airway clear and all that, correct?
That's right.
So you have to use enough force to keep her head from tilting
Yeah.
over on the side.
Yeah.
So at that point, what other efforts did you make to help her at that moment?
So it was when I had her on the floor, I had to run around and get my phone that was charging on my nightstand. So I ran around the bed and came back around and called 911 and put the phone on speaker. And so as I was demonstrating and I was supporting her head and she was against me, the phone was just on the floor right in front of me, so I could at least reach it. But that's where I had it.
There was a witness who testified earlier that you had told him your phone was on her side of the bed. Do you recall that?
Yeah, I don't recall that,
You don't
but
recall him saying that, or you don't recall doing that?
both. I always had it charged on my side of the nightstand. I never slept on that other side of the bed.
But your phone was on your nightstand.
That's correct, yes.
Do you know where your phone went between you're going to bed and you're getting up in the morning? Do you have any idea what your phone was doing?
Not in the slightest.
So you trained paramedic, you've got skills, maybe rusty at the time. What did you do next?
Next meaning, from the point of having her in the recovery position,
Yes.
having her on 911, the 911 call is ongoing. She's,
Can I
yes.
stop you right there? I want to ask you a couple questions about that. You're calling 911.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you know as a paramedic, what happens when someone calls 911?
Call taker receives the call. They code it based on the call type. I'm not a dispatcher, so I'm going to miss certain points. I was the liaison with City Camas, Washougal Fire Department, and Cressa. So I had the opportunity to sit in dispatch and watch them work and understand their process for just one day, but I did. The call taker sends it over to a dispatcher to get the appropriate closest units responding to the call.
Now, the 911 dispatchers, are they just kind of winging it and just kind of going off the top of the head, or do they have any kind of protocol they follow?
No, they have a very strict protocol questioning that they have to ask every time.
And while they're doing that, do you have to tell the dispatcher, I need an ambulance, get someone here right away? Do you have to do something like that?
No.
Why is that?
Because if it's a stroke, this is a general medical call that requires an engine and ambulance in our area every time. If it's a cardiac arrest, it's 2 engines, an ambulance, and a battalion chief every time, unless more is needed by those that responded. Based on where the call is in the city and the call type from motor vehicle accidents on the highway to within the city, it's always predetermined what those dispatches and what resources are going to be sent.
So if you're stationed at Station 41, correct?
I was.
As a battalion chief.
I was.
And you had a dorm, that's where you slept?
Yes.
Okay. But when a call comes in what happens? You're dead asleep, right?
Yep.
And a call comes in. How quickly is the fire department or the paramedics, how quickly are they notified there's something going on?
We're not always aware of like how long it takes from when the call was received to dispatch to the time it was dispatched to the time we receive it. But from the time we receive it with the soft alert system, red lights come on and a voice from the ceiling, automated voice from Cressa that tells us the units and the location and the nature of the call that we're going to go on. We wake up and usually we need to be on the rig within 1 minute.
And are you pretty successful in getting on the rig in 1 minute?
My shift was.
And so, as you're making the call, you know all this is happening, right?
Yes.
You knew all of these people were going to show up.
Yes.
Did you know, give us an idea, you call it in as a seizure.
Yes.
When you're calling it as a seizure, what response do you know at that moment is going to happen?
So if Station 43 is our station in Washougal, it's the closest Camas Washougal station. If they are in quarters and not on another call, I know I'm going to get Engine 43 and Medic 43 rolling out of the doors at the same time.
And so you're going to get at least 3 or 4 paramedics given, correct?
There's a minimum of 1 paramedic on the ambulance and a minimum of 1 paramedic on the engine. Quite often we have more than that. 2 paramedics on the ambulance we would always strive for, and 1 paramedic on the engine always as a minimum. So you could have up to 4 or as little as 2 on just an ambulance and an engine.
But now, when you tell dispatch that she's not breathing, what do you think happens then?
So I know they're automatically upgrading it to a cardiac arrest, CPR in progress. They're going to dispatch a battalion chief and an additional engine.
As far as, so we have 8 or 9 people at this point?
So yeah, at the time our minimums were 2 on the engine, 2 on the ambulance, so there's 4 in the initial response. You get an additional engine, you're going to get another minimum of just 2, so you're only going to have 6 with 2 engines and 1 ambulance. Battalion chief arrives, you have 7. We also had East County Fire and Rescue that responded. They came with 2. So you get up to 8 or 9 that way over time.
Is it common for law enforcement to show up as well?
We were great partners with Washougal and Camas PD. Washougal would often always be rolling in, willing to grab gear. They had their AED in case they got there first to hook someone up and provide a defibrillation if needed. So they took care of us and we took care of them.
So you knew all these people were going to show up?
Yeah. I didn't know who, but I knew I was going to get that number.
You've heard talk about this Halligan device, correct?
Yes,
You know what that is?
I do.
Okay. And what do you know about the Halligan device? You make this call, who's going to have it? How long is it going to take to get there? What are you thinking when you make the call?
Halligan is a forcible entry tool. It's paired with a flathead axe. It's called the marriage because we call it the universal key. You can break into anything. There's lots of techniques and classes we go through to learn how to conduct forcible entry in a quick and efficient way. They are stored on a fire engine only. In our jurisdiction in Camas Washougal Fire, that's fairly common. We have multiple on there actually. I know that the ambulance doesn't carry them. When an ambulance arrives first at a scene and they're unable to gain entry, they're knocking on the door, they're yelling, fire department, their next step is likely to walk around the house and look for another soft point of entry. When it's a real emergent call and you can hear someone screaming inside, you're going to force the door, you're going to kick the door, you're going to shoulder it, you're going to do what you can with a residential. But that's really discouraged because it's caused so many injuries. It's just a delay in aid.
Causes injuries to the firefighters?
To the firefighters by kicking. You lose knees, so it's very discouraged to do that.
So, in your experience, which is going to arrive first, the ambulance or the engine?
Ambulance.
And is that pretty much true every time?
It's not. It depends on where they're responding from. They're not always responding from the station. They come from another call. It might be that the ambulance is available in Washougal and the next engine is downtown Camas. So the ambulance gets there quick and there's a long delay for the engine to get there. So it's all variable. So you hope for, when you call 911, that the stations that are closest in your area have the resources there and ready to go.
And you want them ideally to show up at the same time?
Correct.
What is a typical delay between the ambulance getting there and the engine getting there?
Traffic can cause some minor issues. We have steep hills in Washougal. Engine doesn't roll uphill fast. The ambulance can get there quicker. We usually let the engine out of the bay and off the tarmac faster ahead of the engine, just for that simple reason. So it's commonly going to be there first.
Is your house located at the top of the hills as well?
Yes.
Okay. And so, time-wise, typically, how long after the ambulance do you envision the engine getting there, under normal circumstances?
I think under normal circumstances, within 30 seconds of the arriving ambulance.
Could it be longer sometimes?
It can be.
And so, at some point, well, I'm gonna play for you. What's it? Exhibit number 22.
January 8, 2024, 4:27:13.
911, what is the address of your emergency?
Button with the transfer emergency flush user. Inhibit the address.
2573 34th Street. Repeat the address for verification.
2573 34th Street.
What's the phone number for you, sir?
360-921-5833.
And what's your first and last name?
Kevin West.
Tell me exactly what happened.
She's having a seizure right now. She's never had one.
Okay, seizures are really scary. I'm going to help you. We're going to get help on the way,
I know some
okay?
of the time she puts cameras. I've been a paramedic for a long time.
Okay, Kevin, it sounds like you're taking really good care of her. I hear it's her first seizure. Tell me exactly what happened.
She woke me up in bed. I have her on the floor right now on her side.
Okay. Are you with her now?
I am.
Okay, I'm going to go through some scripted questions. Bear with me, okay, Kevin? It's
Okay.
not going out. How old is she?
48.
Is she awake?
No, she's not.
Is she breathing?
Yes.
Okay, hold on just one sec. Has she had more than one seizure in a row?
It hasn't stopped.
Is she pregnant or has she been pregnant in the past 4 weeks?
No.
Is she diabetic?
No. She has no medical history.
Is she an epileptic?
No, she is not.
Does she have a history of stroke or brain tumor?
No.
Okay, has the jerking stopped yet?
No.
Okay, hold on one second. I'm sending the paramedics to help you now. Stay on the line. I'll tell you exactly what to do next.
I got her on the side. Her airway's clear.
You know what?
Breathing
She
right
couldn't
now.
be with a better person to take care of her. You were doing a
I
really
know.
good job, and I'm required to read it, so just bear with me, okay? She's still
Okay.
breathing. Don't do CPR. Don't hold her down or put anything into her mouth.
No.
Move dangerous objects away from her. Tell me immediately when she stops seizing.
Okay, I will. I got you. Come on, baby. I got you.
And they're coming,
She's not
okay?
breathing right now. Hold on.
A lot of times...
She's stopped. Hold on.
Hold on one second. Don't do CPR.
I'm not. I'm just checking on her right now.
Okay, because it's really scary, but a lot of people don't breathe when they're having a seizure.
No, I know. I know what seizures are. She stopped.
She stopped seizing.
She had a headache at about 11 o'clock last night, and she threw up, and I didn't think about it.
Kevin, help me understand. Did she stop seizing?
She has stopped seizing right now.
Okay, so we're going to check her breathing together to make sure it's all right. When I say go, watch her closely and tell me each time her chest rises. Are you
You
ready?
can tell she's not breathing right now.
Okay, let's go ahead and start CPR, okay?
I'm starting right now.
Okay, if there's a defibrillator available, since I'm going to get it now, and tell me when you have it.
Please.
Hold on. Okay, we're going to... Okay, I'm getting help started. I'm just letting them know that we're starting CPR, okay, Kevin?
Okay.
Are you right? Okay, listen carefully. Lay her flat on the back on the ground and remove anything under her
I
head.
know how to do CPR. I've been doing it for fucking 20 years.
at me, okay? So we're gonna do 2 breaths and 30 pumps, okay? I'm gonna tell you how to, I'm gonna give you instructions.
2 questions. I know what I need to do. I'm doing it.
Okay, I want you to do 2 breaths and 3 pumps.
Okay.
Place your hand, I'm gonna tell you how to give mouth to mouth. Place your hand on her
I know how to
forehead.
do it. I'm a paramedic. I'm an EMT.
Okay.
Doing this since 1992.
All right, you are skilled and you know how to do this. For seizures, we want to do 2 breaths and 30 pumps.
Okay.
Okay, counsel, I need you to stop the matter.
Can I count with you for the 30 pumps?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our lunch recess. Close your notepads, leave them there in your chairs. At your excuse, leave the 7th floor, don't come back until 12:45 at the earliest. We assemble between 12:45 and 1 o'clock, and we'll get started as close to 1 as we can. In the meantime, don't discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else.